हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक। आज हम इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एट वर्क के चैप्टर 3 इलेक्शन एंड रिप्रेजेंटेशन को अंडरस्टैंड करेंगे। डेमोक्रेसी में इलेक्शन सिर्फ वोटिंग का प्रोसेस नहीं है। द वे इलेक्शंस आर डिजाइन एक्चुअली डिसाइड्स how people are represented and how governments are formed. So let's understand the Indian electoral system step by step. Okay? Imagine कीजिए एक क्रिकेट मैच हो, बट देर आर नो रूल्स एंड नो एम्पायर। ऑब्वियसली गेम फिर नहीं रहेगा, गेम फेयर भी नहीं रहेगा। Exactly the same logic applies to the election. Different electoral rules can produce very different results. इसलिए constitution basic rules decide करता है who can vote, who can contest, who supervises elections and how votes are counted. The detailed rules can then be made through laws passed by the legislature. Now an important question arises that can we have democracy without election? In a large country like India, every citizen cannot directly participate in every government decision. Therefore, citizens elect their representative and these representatives participate in the governing of the country, and that is called representative democracy. But एक important point याद रखिए, that is every election is not necessarily democratic. Non-democratic countries can also conduct elections. The real question is whether those elections are free, fair and meaningful or not. Okay? Now, what makes an election democratic? So what makes an election genuinely democratic is first, the election must be free and fair. Voters should be able to choose freely. Candidates should get a fairer opportunity and the machineries conducting election should remain impartial. Second one is that election must provide fair representation. Therefore, our Constitution deals with both free and fair election and fair representation. Now let us understand the India's main electoral system. The first pass, the post system, or simply FPTP. Under FPTP, the country is divided into constituencies. Each constituency elects one representative and the candidates who get the highest number of votes wins. But remember, winning the highest number of votes does not necessarily mean getting more than 50% of the votes. That is the key feature of FPTP. Now, let us take the example of 1984 Lok Sabha election. Congress received around 48% of the votes but won 415 out of 543 seats, which was more than 80% of the seats. On the other hand, the BJP received about 7.4% votes but won only 2 seats. So how did such a difference happen? Because FPTP converts constituency level victories into seats and a candidate only needs more votes than the other candidates in that constituency. This example basically shows that the vote share and the seat share can be differentiated under the FPTP. Okay? Now, proportional representation or PR. In PR system, seats are allocated broadly into the proportion to the votes received by the political parties. So, if a party gets around 30% of the vote, it gets approximately 30% of the seats. This system can provide representation to smaller parties as well, provided they receive sufficient support. Israel is one of the example discussed in our chapter. You can look into the NCERT for the example. The table is given. After that, let's quickly compare both of the system. In FPT, voters generally vote for the candidate and each constituency elects one representative. In PR, voters generally vote for parties and representation is based on the share of votes. FPTP provide a clear local representative and makes accountability easier. PR, on the other hand, tries to reduce the gap between the percentage of the votes and the percentage of the seats. So neither system is simply perfect. Each has its own advantage as well as limitations. Now, so obviously now question arises that why did India choose FPTP? One of the major reason behind that, it was simple. It is easy for ordinary voters to understand that choose a candidate, and candidate with the highest vote wins. Secondly, voters know exactly who their representative is. Thirdly, FPTP can help produce a stable government by giving largest party or coalition an advantage in seat. And in socially diverse country like India, constituency based competitions can encourage different social group to come together. So that is very beneficial for our country. Now, Rajya Sabha and single transferable vote. What India does not use FPTP for every election. For example, in Rajya Sabha election, use a form of proportional representation via single transferable vote or STV. Here, MLA are the voters. They rank candidates according to their preferences, and candidates need a quota to achieve a prescribed. Candidate needs to achieve a prescribed quota. Okay, if the required number of candidates is not elected after counting first preference, the candidate with the lowest vote gets eliminated and votes are transferred to the next preference. So this is the process. This process continues, okay, until the required candidate are elected, and this is how single transferable vote mechanism work. Now, reservation of the constituencies. Now let us come to this. FPTP can sometimes disadvantage smaller or socially oppressed groups, especially in the society with the history of caste-based discrimination. The constitution maker therefore wanted to ensure a fair representation. A fair representation. India rejected the system of the separate electorate and instead adopted the reserved constituencies. In a reserved constituency, all voters can vote, but the candidate must belong to a particular social group or caste, which is the particular seat from one constituency is reserved from particular OBC or particular SC/ST candidate, something like that. Okay, and the constitution provide reservation in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Okay, so this is how it goes. Now it's time for delimitation commission. But who decides constituencies will be reserved? Okay, so that is the delimitation commission comes in. It is appointed by the president and works in the collaboration with election commission. Its major task is to draw the boundaries of the constituency while deciding reserved constituencies. The commission consider the population composition of different areas for deciding how many seats should be allocated to a particular state or constituencies. Or the constituencies present in each state. Reserved constituencies can also be rotated when the delimitation is undertaken. Okay. After that, UAF, that is Universal Adult Franchise, it means that every adult citizen is eligible to vote. Initially, voting age was 21 year, but in 1989 under the constitutional amendment, okay, it has reduced to 18 years. The idea behind this universal adult franchise is very important, that the constitution makers believe that all the adult citizens should be treated as the equal when it comes among deciding who governs them. Okay, so citizens have also the right to contest election subject to the legal conditions. Now, Independent Election Commission comes. Free and fair election require an impartial institution. That institution is Election Commission of India. Article 324 provides for the Election Commission and gives the responsibility of superintendence, direction and control of electoral rolls and elections. The Election Commission conducts election to the Parliament, state legislature and the offices of the President and Vice President. Okay, local bodies election, however, are conducted by State Election Commission. Now, powers and function of ECI, Election Commission of India. It supervises the preparation of electoral rolls. It determines the election schedules, implements the model code of conduct. It can postpone or cancel election when it will feel that free and fair election has not been conducted here, something like that. It can order repoll or recount when necessary, and it also recognizes political parties and allots election symbol. During election related administrative machineries come under the control of ECI only. Now it's time for discussing the electoral reforms. Even a democratic electoral system can have limitation. Therefore, several suggestions as electoral reforms have been made. This includes changing FPTP to some form of PR, proportional representation, increasing representation of women, controlling the influence of money, dealing with the criminalization of the politics led by Vora committee, and preventing caste and religious appeals during the campaigns, and making political parties more transparent and democratic in a way. However, the chapter also reminds us that there is no complete consensus of these reforms. Okay, so it has limitations also. Now, an important lesson here is that the law alone cannot guarantee perfect election. Free and fair elections also depend on the behavior of the candidates, political party, and citizen. Citizen need to remain vigilant and actively participating in the democratic life. And political institution and voluntary organization can also work as a watchdog. So democracy is not maintained only by the constitutional provision. Okay, it also requires a democratic political culture, and this is how the democratic vigilance is maintained by the citizen, by the state machineries, by the different institutions, by the different subsystem of a state. Okay, now coming to the chapter summary. Okay, so let's quickly revise the entire chapter. India is mainly following FPTP, first past the post system for direct election to the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Proportional representation is used for certain indirect election, including Rajya Sabha through single transferable vote system. Reserve constituency aim to ensure the representation of SCs and STs mainly. Universal adult franchise gives citizen aged 18 and above right to vote. Article 324 is very important because it provides constitutional foundation for the election commission. Finally, electoral reforms continuously aim to make India's democracy more representative, free, fair, and transparent. And that's the complete chapter, election and representation. If you found this explanation very useful, do revise in comparison FPTP, PR, proportional representation, single transferable vote, because it is one of the most important conceptual areas from this chapter. See you in the next lecture. Thank you. Kindly like, share, and subscribe. And for